What a great backdrop.
Isn't that so not bad, huh?
So
So
great. So
let me
great
hang on
singing.
hang on just a sec. My nephew Nick the other day gave me these and he said, Uncle Des, these are for you. They're mood enhancers. Now he
Fantastic.
didn't tell me like what part of like in what fashion I'm being enhanced here, but I'm trying them for the second time. They didn't do much yesterday. Yeah, yeah, I'm feeling much better actually.
That's
I'm ready.
fantastic. So you're still in St. Patrick's Day, and we're in the future. So we're tomorrow your time. So
Oh, you know what I should do? I should bet on the ponies, huh?
that's
You can
right.
tell me who won.
I wish it were that easy. Otherwise, we'd have all retired by now. But I actually remember, like way back in 1988, one of the only albums I ever bought on import because it wasn't available in the UK where I grew up. Was your first album, and I still have it. I still have the vinyl, and it's still an album that I play, which is incredible because
The
I
one
guess a
with the
lot of
leg, one with the
yeah,
legs.
a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
that stuff from back in the day just passes me by. But your music's something that stayed with me, and fantastic to get the opportunity to talk. I only ever saw you play once at Rocklahoma in 2009,
Were you there?
which was the main reason I went.
Good man. Listen, I've got you. You've immediately brought two things to mind, right? Three, actually. Well, you didn't bring it, but here anyway. I like these little red, these little cinnamon guys.
Oh yeah, Tic
One
Tacs.
for
Yeah,
you and one for me.
yeah,
So they go with these.
yeah.
Oh, it tastes, but that's what it does. Son of a gun, it enhances the flavor of cinnamon.
You need them. You need them together. Obviously,
Oh, it's
that's the
amazing.
thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Big difference.
Yeah, but
So listen, we'll get to Rocklahoma in a sec. I got a great story about that.
mm,
But you mentioned not being able to have picked it up in the UK where you grew up.
yeah,
So, as I understand it, we we were available, and it was like a number one import or something. But maybe I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. It
So
was the
anyway,
number one import.
okay, there you go. Now I do know this. A little bit later, I ended up playing guitar for a guy named David Lee Roth,
Mm,
and we toured there. And when we got to London, and it was not the Europa, that was in the Europa was in Belfast, and we played King's Hall, and it was the most bombed hotel in Europe. And the first 5 stories were cyclone fence so that they couldn't throw the Molotovs through there.
yeah,
And it was insane. They pulled us over, and we crossed over from Ireland into Northern Ireland, and it went from just being the greenest green ever. And I'm half Irish, my good side, my better side, my wife would tell you about. But anyway, um, and as we crossed over, there wasn't a blade of grass. There were tanks, and the Irish Republic, the army there, and they pull us over. And what's all this? And they come in, they've got their guns and all. And Dave is like half asleep, and he comes out. He goes, "Hey, what's up, guys?" They go, "Oh, Dave, hey, what's up, mate?" And they didn't even check anything. We could have been bringing in missiles or something. In we go. No, that's not the point. The point is when we played London, we walked into, I think it was the Hilton. Anyway, wherever we walked in London was the whole David Lee Roth band, including yours truly, and Dave, of course. And as we walk in, and Dave, his weren't quite these cool, but he had his thing going. And he walks in and he's all ready for it. And a bunch of kids run up. Desi, oh my gosh, it's Desi Rexx. Oh, I can't believe it. And they like go right by him and come over to give me there's high fives, no fists in those days, big hugs. And I just kind of catch out of the corner of my eye. And Mr. Roth was less than thrilled at that reception. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
that would have been the
well,
first time it happened to him.
I don't know. I don't know. And the funny thing is, he and his two managers, Pete Angelus and Patrick Whitley, used to manage Demolish. We were the first band they
Oh
ever
wow.
managed. Yeah. And to make what could be an incredibly long story, very short, the at one point I made a mistake. I used to own all the rights to Demolish.
Yeah.
And at one point, my guys met me at LAX, with that restaurant up here in the air and all that jello looking air, gray jello that you fly into there. And it's like 3 a.m. and I'm so tired and I had to go back and take care of business. My dad had died not too long before. And I'm closing out the estate and all this. And my mates come to pick me up at the airport. And I'm so happy. And they take me to the restaurant. And I've been footing the bill for everything up to that point. And I'm so happy. And they say, if you don't sign over and make this an equal democracy, we're leaving. Well, what I should have done is said, don't let the screen door hit you in the arse, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't. And I signed it. And from that point on, it was always 3 against 1, always 3 against 1. Now, we made great music. Your songs are a lot like your babies. And so I loved them as my wives because we made these fantastic songs and we were great on stage, but it was awful after that point, off stage and any type of decisions and all that. And so if you can only imagine this, David Lee Roth, who was big news, he's still big, but he was big breaking news. And they lay out the plan that they've got in mind for Demals, right? And it sounded fantastic. And we're all set to pull the trigger on it, and it's time to make. And Pete Angelus lifts up the phone and calls Jason Flom in New York. And isn't that funny? See, no booze, no drink, no drugs, no cigarettes, none of that. I don't know if I'm quite as good as Ted Nugent because he claims never to have been to a fast food restaurant. First of all, I don't know about that, Ted. Even shooting a white rhinoceros is not as tasty at 3 a.m. as a nice Taco Bell and churrito, but we'll take him at his word. So I got 3/4 of what Ted's got going for him, and and a very clear memory because of it. So here we are, and Pete Angelus picks up the phone. This is his first official phone call as Demals manager, right? And we had just let Ken Adamany go, who was Cheap Tricks manager. So it was a nice step up for us. And Pete calls and he goes, "Hi, Jason. Yeah, Pete Angelus. Right. Just wanted to let you know we're managing Demals now." Okay. Yeah, right. I want to talk about the budget for the second record. No, 85 grand like the first one is not going to do it. I'm thinking like double. Great. Great. Okay, bye. Boom. 10-second phone call. He doubles the recording budget. Now that's some clout, don't you think?
Absolutely.
It wasn't like yeah. And so when it was time to make the actual record, I'll tell you, I don't know if you know this. Are you a Scorpions fan?
Yeah.
Right. So did you know, and Herman, I love those guys. And I know both the Schenker brothers very, very well. There's a lot of stories there too. But anyway, Rudolf Schenker ran sound for my band one time. What do you think of that? It was in Detroit. And Ted Fisher was on the. Yeah, I had to go to Detroit. I had to go to a radio station to do a little interview before the show. And I go in there, and Ted's on there, and he's doing his Ted the Sledge, and I'm the Windy. What is he? I'm the Windy City Wild Man. What's he? The Motor City Madman, all that stuff. And he goes, "Hey kid, how are you?" I'm a young guy at the time. "I'm fine, Ted. Blah blah. What are you doing?" I tell, and he puts a plug in for us. Oh, they're playing at the whatever it was, Jake's or something on the west side, and so we go and he says, "Here's a ticket, kid. Come see me tonight." And I okay. And so we go to see Ted, and I see like one song, but I had seen the last couple of songs of the opening act, this German band, Scorpions. And backstage, I meet Rudolph, and he's a super nice guy. "Do you like our rock and roll?" "Yeah, I do. I love your rock and roll." "Oh, that's good. Hey, listen." I say, "Listen, I'm playing at a place called, whatever it was down on the east side here tonight. And why don't you come on down after you chill out?" Right? Like he's going to come and see my band. So guess what? We start the show. We're 3 songs in. It stops, and there's terrible feedback. The sound man can't get it together. And all of a sudden, I said, "Can anybody?" And I see a hand like this, and I look over there, and Rudolf Schenker had come to see us, went behind the board, got it all straightened out, got it pumping, and I mean, it was killing. And he points at me, and he goes, "V," like I was playing a blue flying V, and he loves those flying Vs. He goes, "V, good, good," and I said, "Thanks." And I said, "Listen, if none of you guys have bought the new Scorpions record, all of you go out right now. I'll excuse you for the next 3 songs. Go buy their record and come." And I didn't say who was behind the board because, they'd have mobbed him, right? But I just thought that was so slick. What a nice guy, right?
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, they're good. I remember going to see them on their final tour in 2010. And I think they're still playing it, so they're still going. But
isn't it something?
They can't give it away. But yeah,
speaking of these, I've got to put a plug in now. You might not have heard the news. Do you know who a guy named Max, Pete Baronet Max? Does that name ring any bell for you? He's a guitar maker, guitar builder.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so He was hands down the absolutely best luthier on planet Earth. When Gibson decided to reissue their 59 Les Pauls,
Yeah.
they called him and said, would you come and build them for us? Because we don't know half of what you know about building our old Les Pauls. That's a true story. He turned him down because he wanted to be our road manager for a while. Max died last Thursday, and I'm so sad. He was my best man. He's my oh my gosh, I'm just devastated. But this is a beautiful
Oh wow.
Max Flying V. Hadouk, solid all the way through, flame top. So it's set up like an SG. It's tapered,
Yeah.
but it's shaped like a V. It's got a neck through like a Firebird, and it's got a flame top like a Les Paul. This is a killer guitar. He made that one for me. There are a few others he did. He builds a bunch for Stevie D from Buck Cherry. That's another. Stevie D played on our new record. Did you know
Did he?
that?
Yeah.
He
Oh, well,
did.
we know the Buck
Yeah.
Cherry does very well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's great.
In fact, Max put us together. Max called me up. He goes, you know who Stevie D is? I said, I do not. He said, you know who Buck Cherry is? I said, I'm not sure. He says, look him up, blah, blah, blah. I'll text you his number. He'd love you to give him a call. I said, okay. A couple days later, did you call him? No, I didn't call him yet. Can I give him your number? Sure, Max, give him my number. Stevie calls me right up. I'm kind of slow on this stuff. I'm still in another time zone, late 80s. Hang on just a second. Yeah, no, I'm here again. It's 2023. So I got to have another candy. So anyways, we're ready to make this first record. And what I was going to share is that Herman Rarebell, the drummer for the Scorps.
Oh yeah.
I don't mean
Herman the
this as
German.
dirt. I don't mean this as dirt. I just mean it. Like sometimes I have to say to my kids, look, I don't mean this to be mean. I just mean it. Herman Rarebell is a great live rock star. Agreed?
Yeah. He played. I think he played in 2009.
Herman has never made a single recording for Scorpions. Never. Did you know that?
I actually did know that. Yeah, I did.
It's not right.
Oh, I
So
think.
he's
Yeah.
not, in the studio, it calls for a different thing. It doesn't call for the flash and the drumsticks and all that. You're just laying it down. So here's Pete Angelis, Pat Whitley, David Lee Roth, managing the mouths. Got the budget doubled up, ready to make the record, come into pre-production. They got Bo Hill ready to produce. Bo hears it, says, I love the song. He says, oh my gosh, it's a great band. My gosh, you guys are great. He says, here's the deal. We're going to bring in a ringer for the record because your drummer is great live. He's not quite steady enough in the studio. We got to be able to get this thing done. So we build the layers, not worry about the basics. Who were they going to bring in? Nate Winger, Kip Winger's kid brother.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Who are they going to have co-produce? Paul Winger. Did you know that the band Winger originally was a three-piece with the three Winger brothers?
No, no idea.
Right. No, nor I. I did then, but not then. So Nate comes in. Billy's all wigged out. Nate says, hey, man, I'm just here to help him. I'm being, okay. So Billy's sitting back with the sour foot and the stink eye and everything. And Nate says, no, Billy, you play. He says, let me hear you guys do all the songs that you got planned for this record. So he listens, and Nate is very literate, and he takes his, and as Billy's is playing the song, he writes it all out. He says, great, next one. Great, next one. Back up, hit that bridge again. Got it, next one. And he charts them all out in about, well, I don't know, maybe 35 minutes. He says, can I give it a whirl? He sits down and he plays the songs like he was the one that wrote them with us. It was unbelievable. But that's because that's what he does. He's a studio guy. And Billy got so paranoid. He thought, oh, they're going to replace me. We're never going to replace you with Nate Winger because he's been in a terrible car wreck. His legs are a mess. He looks like Toulouse-Lautrec. He's a great guy. I love him. But he's got real short legs. And it wasn't about replacing him. It was about making a great record. And so Billy gets wigged out, then Lizzie gets, then they all start talking. And it's like, well, if they're going to replace him, they could replace him. They'll replace everybody except Desi because he's the voice. No, wait, we're firing Roth. And I go, you're what? What? He's out. He doesn't get it. David Lee Roth doesn't get it. Is that what I just heard you say? And so they say, are you going to make the call or do we have to make it? Because I kind of knew him, I go way back and, okay. Oh, yeah, I'll make the call. So I call up and I go, hey, guys. Hey, Des, what's up? You're so I said, listen, the band has decided to go in a different direction. You mean like not Bo Hill? No, like not you guys. What? Is that what you want, Desi? I said, let me say it again. The band has made a decision and they knew what that meant, right?
Mm.
So a little bit of time goes by. We released the second record. We got into terrible, terrible bloody fights. It was awful. I never want to go there again. And I just decided I can't let myself get pushed to the edge like this ever again. I got to go. Bye, guys. All the best. So that's when I left. And with that, of course, went rights to the name DeMals.
Mm.
But let's say Paul McCartney wanted to do a band and it was going to play all Beatles songs. And could he call it maybe the Beatles Yesterday? Could he call it the Beatles Helter Skelter? Could I call this Demal 777? So all the legal stuff is out of the way and we're moving forward. And it gets kind of a double recognition because some people know the tune. Some people like to gamble in Vegas in that little machine. And of course, some people like Demals. And so we've had very good luck with this now. And do you know who the new lineup is? Have you heard who I've got in the band? Do you know?
I have, but I don't know them. I must admit the names. A couple of the names were familiar, but
Johnny Lightfoot. Johnny
yeah.
Lightfoot.
So I knew that
So,
name, but I didn't know where from.
well, Gordon Lightfoot, Sundown, you got all those songs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Memphis Gerald, and all that stuff. So that's his cousin.
Oh,
So Johnny's a very, very young cousin, and Gordon's
yeah.
very, very old. It's actually, I think, his dad's cousin. But anyway, they're related, and Johnny's Indian, and he's super cool, and he doesn't wear feathers or anything like that. But he's got like this really killer colored skin and cheekbones, and he's probably, I would say, in the top 3 bass players on planet Earth. He's an unbelievable talent. He's just unbelievable, and he's a great producer. He's my great friend. He's great to hang out with. I trust him for honest feedback. He'll tell me the truth and know, oh yeah, it looks great, Dad, your hair looks. Oh, I can't see those roots. It looks perfect. I mean, he's straight with me, which is great, and he's a great co-writer. And I can write songs all by myself, and so can he. But together, we kind of have a symbiosis and have really great songs that we write. And so anyway, he knew a drummer here. I'm in Salt Lake City, by the way. That's where I live these days. And Van Christensen, Vandolph the Great, is one of these drummers that can play any style. Like he can play any Led Zeppelin song to the T, any Beatles song, any Stones song, any Rush song. Anybody that you think is a good drummer, Van can nail just right. And the problem with guys like that is oftentimes they do not have their own style. Do you know what I mean? They've learned how to copy but somehow he has melded all that stuff and shaken it up and thrown it out and let it land on him. And he's got his own thing and he's incredible. I just love handing it over. The reason Tommy Aldrich used to always get gigs with all the great bands is because he could do a drum solo that would bring the house down. And you could rest for 15 minutes and let him do his thing. And Van is like that. He just kills it. Then we had all that together and we were making the record and I was playing lead on a lot of it. And Johnny's a pretty good lead player. He did it on one of the songs. Johnny played the lead on that one called Bye Bye Baby. And so this is not cocaine. This is an itchy nose because my bangs are just a little long. I think I need another. Yeah, I do. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have the soda. Do you mind? Cactus Cooler, Breakfast of Champions.
Cactus Cooler.
They're lovely. So anyway, we called up a number of friends. We thought, why not have some friends share the love on this record? Why not? And so the first guy that I thought to call is a guy. I was actually very, very good friends with a guy named Ronnie Youngkins from a band Kicks. And this is the other guitar player is Brian Forsyth. And Brian was not so much a friend of mine from way back as we kind of knew of each other. But we did a show, Demals did a show very shortly after that 09 Rocklahoma show, by the way.
Yeah.
It was we were if you recall, we were not on the main stage, we were in a tent. And it was on a Sunday and it was in the afternoon. And it was 130 degrees in that tent. And in the other places, people were dropping like flies. All the young kids are falling down and we're just killing it. And water, I think I went there 6 or 8 waters. It was unbelievable, pouring off of us. But I think it was a pretty good show. And if you were there, I think you might remember it was a good one.
was
right?
fantastic. Yeah, it was worth going all that way to Oklahoma. It was, yeah,
Right.
fantastic.
I liked you for the last 20 minutes. Now I love you.
It was, yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. I mean, so many bands we didn't get to see back in the day because of the
Yeah,
fact that we were an ocean apart. But
right.
and now we're a couple of oceans apart. But
Yeah.
there were just so many bands I needed to see, and Demols was one of them. So for me, Rocklahoma 2009 wasn't about the headliners; it was about being in that tent and places like that. So it
Oh,
was,
it was so fun. We got there, and that show was, or we were put on there by a label called F&A,
mm,
F&A Records. That I did one called Demal's Desi Rexx D Sides. And do you have that one?
I do.
Okay, because I was going to send it right out to you if you like. So that one, that guy Steve, later, it's too long a story right now, but he's the one that hooked me up with Johnny Lightfoot. And
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
what he said is, I ran into a guy in an airport, looks real rock and roll, and it turns out it's Johnny Lightfoot from Air Supply, and he'd like to do some shows with you. And I thought to myself, Demals and Air Supply? What? That's like AC/DC and the Mamas and Papas or something. Like, that
Mm.
is not right. That's a mismatch. And so he says, well, listen, give him a call. And so I think 6 months went by and I didn't call him. Then he called me. He said, did you call him? No, I didn't call. Can I give him your number? Yes, you can give me. And just like Stevie D, but time is, the other way. Johnny called me like that night. We talked 25 minutes about our kids. We really hit it off. And I say, so what's this thing about doing shows with air supply? What? He says, no, no, no. He says, that's just my bread and butter. He says, I'm a glam rocker. I was in a band called Skid Scat when I was a kid. We used to do All I Want off your first record. He goes, I've been a Demouse fan forever. Do you need a bass player? I said, I do now. you know, I do now, brother. Come on down and audition and let's see how this goes out. And it was merely a formality because he came down, he killed it. He knew every freaking song inside and out. He's jumping around and doing Pete Townsend windmills and singing on the mic with me and everything. And it was like, okay, this guy and I think might get along very well moving forward. And so we did. And then we got Van, I told you, the drummer.
Yeah.
And then we're going through guitar players, trying nothing's working out. And like right after that Rocklahoma show, which was so fun, that morning, it was Sunday. That morning I got up, I went to church. I'm a LDS, Latter-day Saint, Mormon. And so I find the closest church and I drive down and I go in and I got my hair all wigged out and I got eyeliner. I'm in black leather. I got a skull, on my belt. And I got this all ripped up t-shirt because I'm ready to go on stage right after, but I wanted to go to church. Just felt like I should do it. And I walk in and, I don't know if you know any Latter-day Saints, but it's always like a shirt and tie.
Yeah, yeah. Shirt
It's
tie,
very
very
stoic.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And so when I walk in, they go like, what? And I walked in, I go, lads, I'm a high priest from Centerville, Utah. And they're like, oh, I said, I'm doing a show at the Rocklahoma. Oh, you're playing? No kidding. What's the name of the band? Blah, blah. Oh, come on in here. So we had this great church meeting. It was great and got my sacrament and I go all charged up and ready. I go back, we hit stage. That's when I ran in, and we
Yeah.
played and did the show pretty well. And then shortly thereafter, we did a show in Iowa, and right in that very same period of time, that same lineup that you saw, and at that show in Iowa, we were doing a double bill with Rhino Bucket,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, and so I don't know if you know, but that well, the drummer is a different story. That guy is now a girl, and that's a whole different story. But when um, when they went on, Brian is doing his thing, Forsyth. He sits in with Rhino Bucket pretty regularly.
Mm.
He's obviously kicks is his bread and butter, but whenever he's not kixing, he's rhinoing. And so it was one of those nights. And I thought to myself that night while I'm watching him play and doing his spin on his Cuban heels, and he's got his Telecaster and it's slicing my face off. And I thought, if there was a guy that could stand right between Keith Richards and Ron Wood and hold his own, it's Brian Forsyth. That's exactly who he is. That's exactly what he does. And that's a good thing to be, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
And
saw
so
Rod
then we come
Stewart
up
the other.
and oh yeah, yeah. Then we come up and play. And so I was out there and I was being a complete idiot. Brian, you're killing it. And he's like laughing and playing and doing stuff and then I go, and then he's doing it for me, Desi, you know what I mean? And so we had this great night without yet meeting each other per se. And then I went backstage and he's like, oh man, oh hey, and hugs, and it was like a brother that I never knew, kind of. There was just a
Yeah.
simpatico, right? So a couple of years go by, and Johnny and I have this record going. We're trying to figure out what to do for the lead guitar stuff, and I can do it, we can play. I can play guitar and three piece and all that, and it's cool. And Hendrix, I get all that, but I don't like it. It's like, yeah, hit it, me, and then I like playing off of another guy.
Yeah.
And how do you do that stuff like that? All I want intro where you're talking back and forth with it. What do you do? I don't want money, and I'm going to do it. That doesn't make any sense. You got to have a guy. Plus four is just better than three. It just is. So we're going. Who can do this? Who can do this? And I went, Brian Forsyth, And Johnny goes, yeah, yeah, sure. I go, he's my mate. No worries. Yeah. So we call him up, and I said, Brian, we got a great cake. It needs some frosting. You want to do the honors? And he hits me back right away. Absolutely. Send me whatever tracks you'd like me to do. I'd love to play on your record, Des. No worries. And then I hit him back after we heard the tracks that he sent, and they're stellar. I said, do you want to do any live shows? He said, if I'm available, fly me out. I'll play for you anytime, anywhere. So you may yet see Brian on stage
Oh,
with us.
that sounds
But
fantastic.
yeah, and so one of those tracks was Blue. No, wrong. It was a couple other three tracks, and that was the end of it. And then Johnny and I are brainstorming, and what should we do? It's good to have a name on something. And he goes out to see Blue Man Group, and he comes back home, and he says, guess who I met? One of your old buddies. I don't know. Who? Who did he meet? Do you know?
I don't know. Well,
Come on. Who's the drummer for Slaughter?
oh God.
Blas Elias. Blas
Oh,
Elias.
okay. Yeah,
Blas Elias got done with Slaughter and
yeah.
slid to Blue Man Group. Now that's a killer gig for a drummer, right?
Mm,
Since then, he's left Blue Man Group. You know who he's drumming for these days?
don't know. Well,
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
oh wow, okay. It all comes together.
What a gig, right? So he hadn't yet got the trans gig, and he was still Blue Man Grouping. And Johnny said, I've never seen something like that. I said, I have. He's freaking good, right? He goes, he's incredible. I said, what do you say we get him in for a track or two? He says, which ones do you think? I said, well, I think definitely one that we've got one that's called Turn It Up Louder. It will probably be our next sing. It's like, my girlfriend quit me, said that I'm a zero. It's freaking killing riff song. It's a great song. And so we flew him in, and he tracked it in no time. And we had breakfast. Johnny spilled stuff all over himself, and he goes, "Oh, I can't take me anywhere." And Bloss is falling down laughing. It's great. And so it was just old times. It was great here in Salt Lake. And we hit the studio and we knock out that song. And then Johnny says to me, he goes, "I wasn't going to do this. What do you say we have him play on Blue?" Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Bloss, you down for one more? Absolutely, guys, let's do it. And he sang some backgrounds on Turn It Up Louder as well. So he knocked it out. So now we've got Blue, and it's really I think it's a pretty strong track, right?
Yeah, it's a
And we've got
real sort of like rock and roller. It's like goes back. I mean, rock and roll's timeless, but like when you hear a track like that, you think, yeah, this is sort of what rock and roll is all about. It's like where it came from, but it's now, and it sounds fresh, and it sounds
it
not like
just
no one's doing it at the moment.
and here's the thing. Johnny sends me the way the Blue thing came. Johnny sends me track one. We always send tracks back and forth and add our parts. And if we get together, like that, you know how it is electronic these days, like
Yeah,
this, you and me.
yeah.
And so you and I. And so he sends me a track. He says, I just sent you one. Listen to it. I think we should cover it. And I go, okay. And I listen to it, and it's Leanne Rhymes doing Blue. I'm going, oh my God, I want to vomit all
Yeah.
over my phone. And I call him back. I go, are you freaking kidding me? He says, what did you think of the tune? I said, I said, she's great at what she does, I guess, but that's not Desi. What are you talking about? He says, ah, I'll send you another one. And he sends me, and it's raw tracks that Johnny did, drum machine, bass. He played the guitars, and it's and I listen to it, and I go, oh my gosh, I can kill that. And then he phones me up. What do you think? When are we going in the studio? He says, I got us booked for tomorrow afternoon, 24th Street, and say whatever. And I go down there and $10,000 beautiful microphone. Anyway, we killed it, right? And the track is really good. So now we take it home, we mix it, and we're listening to it and going, what do we do for the solo? What do we do? Because the track evolved itself a little. We wrote along with it, but sometimes things just kind of happen. And that one just kind of happened. And we look at each other and we both go, slide. Right. And so I bust out the slide. I'm a good slide player. And the way it hit me, I kind of gave it, it's got, I don't know, I think the tune might have been written in the 50s, but doesn't it have a little bit of a 40s, late 40s, early 50s, early rock feel,
Yeah,
like
a
the
sort of
track?
swing. Yeah, yeah.
Kind of swing, exactly. So I kind of did a swing solo to, and it's really good. And I'm not doing this, but it was really good. And we listened to it, and we both kind of go. He says, "Can you come up with more? Is that, have you shot your, you know?" And I go, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to do for this." And we both go, "It's not quite there yet, is it? No, it's not quite. That's not quite it." And I said, "I wonder. Why don't you give Brian a call?" He says, "Brian, slide." I said, "Well, call him and ask him anyway." He calls up Brian. Hey, Brian, Johnny, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, thanks again. Oh yeah, that's really good. Listen, you don't play slide, do you? And Brian says, it's my secret weapon. Oh yeah? Can we send you another one? Yeah. We send him Blue, and he sends that back to us, and it is perfect. I mean, that's perfect. That solo is just perfect for the song. And then the outro stuff, and all this. It's just, wait a second, I'm losing it.